We have been working closely with the Israeli authorities. We have been working closely
Oh, oh, okay. It says they're connected now, so hopefully. Oh, I can hear the alerts. Yes, victory. Thank fuck. That was like pulling teeth. Fucking hell. Right. Shall we get to our lovely foreign minister? Yeah, I will get better at this, I promise. Oh, gosh, man. Oh, there we go. There we go. Oh, oh, please. It's because I haven't really broken them in yet. I've only just it was last night. We have literally just been paired in the last 24 hours. Yeah, 24 hours. Tricky. So I will sound kind of funny. It'll get used to working with the laptop. I might just actually just pair my black ones to my phones for my phone. Be easier. Plus the black ones will go with the outfit I'm wearing tomorrow. Oh, go back to the beginning. Take it away, you absolute ball. I thought he wasn't allowing flights for Israeli citizens who are living there, flights to leave. That's why there was a mass boat exodus. Funny that, them giving compensation to the British government. Rejoice, comrades, some random geek is lurking in the void. Watch out for the tardigrades, geek. They might attack you. Yeah, considering it's a military plane that was sent, and they're getting taken to Cyprus, so I'm assuming they'll be landing at Akrotiri, southern part of the island, for obvious reasons. The northern part of the island claims allegiance with Turkey for reasons. There was a war back in the 70s, and we've been there since. As a UN, there's a buffer zone right across the island. And is it a demilitarized zone? I don't know. It probably was a demilitarized zone back in the day. So they'll be landing at Akrotiri, flying over, loading up people with UK citizenship and UK passports, and flying them to Akrotiri until they get other flights to fly them back here. Funny that, isn't it? Oh, don't you worry, Gemma. Honestly, the back problems, solidarity, sister. Back problems, be a bitch. I use heat sprays or Super Hubby gives me a massage gen on because of spine issues. Long and complicated story about that one. But there's cold sprays and you can use cold compresses. That sometimes works. I use the heat-based ones or hot water bottle or a nearly skin scorchingly hot bath because baths rule, obviously. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Um, that's the ones I use, Gemma. They come in packs. The actual DP, the branded one, packs of two, 5.79. Ouch. But they do work and they last for 12 hours, which is amazing. The cheaper ones, which are between £1 and £3, it says 10 hours on the packaging. The longest one that I've actually had for the cheaper ranged ones is like 4, maybe 5 hours, because the heat gets sucked into me essentially. It gets burnt up, it responds to how your skin and whatever the issues are underneath. And any bit of heat that can relieve me, I just drain the things essentially. I know it's a chemical reaction, but I interact with how you use it. I have tried a cold compress, a cold one, like a cold, um, like a freeze zone one, freeze ones, and the agony that fucking costs me. Holy fuck. No, I would stick with my DP. Thank you. Deep freeze, I need to fucking remember it. So the deep freeze ones, fuck off. Searing fucking agony when I put that on any of my joints on my back. My mum suggested to me, said, you've used the DP too much, try the cold one. And when I took it off, when I got him to rip it off my back, I called my mum with tears streaming down my face, saying, I can't use them. The deep freeze ones hurt me. I'm in agony now. What? Oh, sorry. Right, that's fine. I will keep it. I'll buy the DP ones then. So, and she does. Anytime I go back up to Perth, see my family, she usually hands me Tuesday boxes. Thank you, Mother. Much appreciated. And she gives me a never-ending stream of hot water balls. I've got 6 now in this flat alone, and there's 2 down the road in my actual flat. 8 hot water bottles is about right for the level of agony I'm in. And then here. Oh no. 2? 2 squeezes. Wait, just these? Oh no. Fuck. Give me a second, so that would be output, sound, speakers.
I'm like, who are the terrorists here? Who are the terrorists? Is it the government who is actively participating in Israel's genocide? Are they the terrorists, or are the people who are trying to stop that the terrorists? I think the answer is pretty clear.
Can you tell me why you're protesting here today?
So my daughter took action with Palestine Action last August, and she has been in prison ever since, awaiting trial. So this is an issue very close to my heart. I think it's a massive, repressive, devastating move. I am devastated by this move on behalf of governments to ban Palestine Action and effectively prescribe them as a terrorist group.
Thank you. And can you tell me, do you know much about the conditions of your daughter's detention?
So it's a very strange situation. So she met the conditions for bail. She's got no previous convictions or charges against her. She's got good character. She's only 21 years old, and yet she was refused bail, and she's been refused it now 3 times.
How often do you get to speak to your daughter?
I can speak to her fairly often. In the early days, it was nearly 2 weeks after her arrest that I was able to speak to her, because she was arrested under the Terrorism Act, and she had no contact allowed with any family or friends for 5 days, and then she was put in prison, and she was still not allowed until security clearances, so it was nearly 2 weeks. It was the worst time of my life.
And as a mother, you know, you can look behind you, you can see there's many, many people here to show solidarity with Palestine Action today. How does that make you feel?
Yes, it's heartwarming. We need this. We need the whole country to be standing behind Palestine Action at this time. I think some people have felt nervous of it because, you know, they break the law.
Now that are they prescribed? I think they might be not good, really not good. They're a protest movement. Yeah, anyway, as long as you can hear me, the reason it sounds funny is I just paired them last night. I've been trying to get the levels and stuff fixed with them, and I'll need to call in some help, I think, when when the person I know that I go to, I can get her, whenever she's got a minute. She's one of my mods, by the way. So once she's free, I'll get her to help me with this, because these are basically these ones. The levels on them, because I've nearly burnt them out. They're nearly dead. They're good enough on my phone, obviously, watching YouTube and listening to news and stuff. But these ones are a lot fresher. They're better.
They're seen as a little bit scary and on the edge, but honestly, when you're a person of conscience and your government is committing war crimes and lawful protest is completely ignored, what option do you have? If you want to make a difference, what option do you have other than direct action?
And are you proud of Zoe?
I'm extremely proud of Zoe. I could not be more proud. So Amnesty International have come out against this, Liberty have come out against this, and they have explained that even using words Palestine Action, supporting them in any way, supporting their cause in any way, wearing a t-shirt with a Palestine Action logo could land you in prison for up to 12 years. And I cannot get my head around this.
And do you think like this support then from the UN stuff, does that feel like genuine hope for you, or like a drop in the ocean?
It feels like it felt like the grown-ups came into the room and spoke up. It was a relief to hear the truth being spoken to our government, but I have zero hope that the government will pay any attention. I mean, they already know that Israel is committing genocide, and they're refusing to admit that. They're refusing to stop arming Israel. Why would they listen to the UN? You know, this is where we are.
Right, so the genocide of the Gaza Strip still very much ongoing, where Israel is not waging war, but enacting systematic violations of a captive population.
There's a direct protest towards the RAF in a local park soon, and hopefully they're not heavy-handed in the response. But given what happened in Trafalgar, I'm not confident. Yeah. If West Yorkshire Police is in lockstep with them, that is a cab. But if these are peaceful, they will be there. They will be there, obviously, if anything happens. But they really shouldn't be heavy-handed. And if they are, let me know, because I assume people will be recording it. I don't know why they risk it, especially with mobile devices that we can just hit up our cameras straight away and record them being absolute idiots or fools or the oppressive arm of the state. It's stupid for them to actually do shit like that because they can get recorded. But some police are some police should be police, let's put it that way.
With bullets and bureaucracy and banality. In Gaza, starvation has become a siege weapon. Water is a luxury rationed by airstrikes, and hope is snuffed out before it can draw breath. This is not warfare. This is not self-preservation. This is not rescuing hostages or eliminating Hamas. It is industrial-scale cruelty wrapped in the language of security and self-defense. And while children are being maimed, burned, amputated, and starved, the so-called guardians of human rights in the West remain complicit in silence, or worse, actively underwriting the genocide. The Gaza Strip has become the epicenter of one of the most systematic and unrelenting acts of state violence in modern history. What began as a military operation has spiraled into a full-blown genocide, one where civilians are no longer just collateral damage, but the intended targets. Children starve in lines for aid, families thirst under a man-made drought, and journalists are barred from entering, leaving the outside world to grasp at the few fragmented horrors that manage to escape via social media, and those brave souls already there, doing the journalism, risking their lives daily to keep us aware of Israel's atrocities. Right, so the Gaza Strip has for the last 20 months now stood as ground zero for one of the most calculated and merciless campaigns of state-led destruction in modern history. What Israel initially framed as a military offensive has mutated into an unmistakable genocide, one where civilians aren't accidentally caught in the crossfire, but deliberately targeted. Children perish while queuing for food, families are parked beneath a scorching sun, and journalists are locked out, forcing the global public to piece together the atrocities from scraps of smuggled evidence.
If they start banning flags, we're not going to pay fucking attention. Then what's next? They get rid of our flags? We'll just get the flag on our face. We'll get face paints and put the flag on our face. What are they going to do? Arrest our face? It's freedom of expression, for fuck's sake, and freedom of association and assembly. Don't get me wrong, they will try and fucking crack down on us and bring in legislation which bans pretty much any sort of protest, or even in strikes as well. So if they start doing that fucking bollocks, the hell mend them. All in the service of a genocidal state. Delightful. I despise my government.
In the early hours of June the 21st, the Israeli military once again launched strikes on Palestinian civilians waiting at an aid distribution site, killing at least 35 people. The victims, already weakened by months of hunger and dehydration, had come to one of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, GHF, sites for basic sustenance. Instead, they met death, as so many do at said sites every single day. Since the GHF began operations on May the 27th, hundreds of people have been killed while queuing for food. Aid that...
Yes, they have. I'm a member of Republic. I wasn't at that. Obviously, that was down in London. I can't afford to go down, obviously. But I'm a member of Republic now. I've been for over a year. Yeah, they rounded them up before the coronation and arrested them all. Graham Smith, the main guy from Republic, detailed it in a post on the website. What happened? How they all got rounded up. Prominent ones in London and just outside the city centre, just outside the across Greer, London. People who could actually travel to the coronation, and they got rounded up. Delightful, isn't it? They were doing it for security reasons. No, you weren't. You just didn't want them being there. Campaigning for the end of the constitutional monarchy. Delightful. I was going to try and get to Republic Day, which is the 10th of May, over in Holyrood Castle, which is the one in Edinburgh that we go to that they own. But I couldn't make it. I wasn't feeling too good the day before, in the days leading up to it. I was a bit upset. I wanted to go through to Edinburgh because I could get over easily. So next May, hopefully, I'll get to Republic Day over in Edinburgh, and that'll be good. I think your country's going to be the first one to go Republican, Gemma, with any luck. Now, if we manage to do it before I cloak it, what I have been saying for many years now, I would hope we'd be a republic by the time I was 50. That's only 4 years away now, so I'm doubtful of that happening, but hopefully before I die would be a good thing. Oh, would you? How many monarchists are there in Australia anyway? I'm not thinking many. There's, what is it? There's a few million people, sad monarchists essentially, that still exist, and they're all scattered. Quite a lot in the home counties, but they're scattered throughout the British Isles. So there's more and more people joining the Republic now, which is a sight to behold. So happy. Quite a lot of Scots in the Republic. Funny that.
Used to be distributed by UNRWA, by the UN, once seen as a beacon of relief under Israeli occupation, getting food has now become a potential death sentence. UNICEF have recently weighed in on another increasingly severe crisis as well, sounding the alarm about Gaza's descent into a man-made drought. As Israel continues its systematic destruction of water infrastructure, only 40% of Gaza's water systems remain even partially functional. There's no fuel, there's no spare parts, and the constant bombardment have left a broken system unable to deliver sufficient clean drinking water. The result is a spiraling public health crisis. Acute watery diarrhea now accounts for 25% of all disease cases, and hepatitis A, highly contagious and potentially fatal as that is, has also now taken root. Children are the most vulnerable in any humanitarian crisis. They make up almost half of Gaza's population, and they're bearing the brunt of Israel's war of starvation and now thirst. There's so much more as well. Malnutrition is rampant and acute malnutrition has soared. According to UNICEF data, 16,736 children were admitted for treatment for malnutrition in Gaza between January and May of this year. Of these, 5,119 were admitted in May alone, nearly 50% more than in April. The number of children suffering from severe acute malnutrition has surged 146% since February. To make matters even more spectacularly appalling on the aid front, though, the GHF has had the nerve to say there's not enough aid to meet demand now, and has therefore applied for $30 million in additional US funding. Well, if people keep dying at your sites for the want of getting aid, that demand will soon fall, I suppose, won't it? Instead of easing the crisis, the GHS food distribution efforts have seemingly exacerbated it. Certainly they're being accused of that, accused of making matters worse. UNICEF has criticised the foundation for worsening an already catastrophic situation by attracting large, desperate crowds with little security, placing them directly in the line of fire. Every time Palestinians gather for the promise of bread, they risk bullets instead. The most grotesque aspect of this tragedy is the near-total media blackout. Israel continues to bar international journalists from entering Gaza.
Praise be Damo. He is a Green Party member as well. It was his videos and a couple of other people online in Helena's community, so No Justice, NTG. Sugar Horse is the comms for the Green Party down Bristol. If I got that wrong, Sugar Horse, I do apologise. So they're comms for a branch down there, I believe. Now they are, I know they're green comms, I just can't, I'm sure so sure it is. So it was them that actually encouraged me to join. Also in both Helena's and Kev's community, non-binary as well, I believe. I believe they are over in Edinburgh. There's a good few of us in the community that are always lots of people because of us, especially Sugar Horse, basically joining the Green Party over the last year, kind of, which is good. And obviously Helena's a member of the Green Party as well. Helena is beast.
Citing concerns for their safety. Yet the real motive appears quite clear. Control the narrative by silencing the witnesses, reducing how many there are. The reality is that Israel has explicitly denied access to journalists to restrict scrutiny and accountability, and has done so from the get-go. These are not new tactics. They're not a surprise either. Israel have been doing it all the way through this genocide. And we've seen these tactics mirrored in Israel itself as they maintain a media blackout over retaliatory Iranian strikes to hide the scale of the damage that Iran is actually doing to them, where reporters have been heavily restricted in their coverage, lest the propaganda war Israel are maintaining be undermined. But the greatest danger to journalists in Gaza isn't Crossfire, it's Israel itself. Since October the 7th, 2023, at least 227 journalists have been killed in Gaza. According to a new report called News Graveyards, How Dangers to War Reporters Endanger the World, 2023 saw a journalist killed every 4 days in Gaza. In 2024, that rate increased to 1 every 3 days. The deadliest conflict for journalists in modern history is happening now.
It's a gradual effect that people are joining Republic. It's not like mass amount of people, like millions of British citizens joining Republic. It is gradual, but yeah, there are other issues that we need dealt with first, obviously, because neoliberalism sucks. Oh yeah. I've talked to you probably already know him. Lexi Bat. There's an anarchist for you, or a lovely American one based in Las Vegas, proudly radical. Kai, he's an anarchist. Yay! Fantastic. I like Lexi. Keep on meaning to go and visit him and say hi. I've not been in the stream for fucking ages. He directed me to Proudly Radical. Kai's really good. I like Kai. I'm building up quite a portfolio of you lovely anarchists. They're just plain old vanilla Marxists here. Yeah, Kai's brilliant.
It is being conducted with almost no international media presence or coverage. So much for solidarity around the world with members of their profession who are in this war zone. Well, I suppose there are journalists in this world, and then there are the stenographers that pass themselves off as such, but aren't worthy of the name at all, or of being associated even with that honourable profession. The children of Gaza continue to suffer in almost unimaginable ways. Recent data compiled by Humanitarian Monitors reveals that...
I will be back momentarily. The ones that are actually joining Republic are all below the age of 30, mostly, and there's a good few. So the main Scots cohort that's joining Republic are the Gen Xers, oddly enough. So my age and older, I'm one of the cut-offs for the generations are fucking different. It depends who you ask. The cut-off for Gen X is 1980. I was born in 79, so it's basically all the Gen Xers up to about the closer to boomers. Some of them are still monarchists, unfortunately. So that's the ones that were born between like 64 and 70. Then people born from 70 to 80, especially up here in Scotland, we've been joining in kind of big numbers mostly. And there's lots of Republicans here in Glasgow. Funny that. So Gen X and younger millennials and Zoomers. Quite a lot of Zoomers actually from major metropolitan areas, big cities essentially. The more rural you are, the more monarchist. It's a funny metric that they use to judge. There's people who are not interested, uninterested, or don't know, not enough information sort of category. And there's few saying monarchist and few saying Republican. They do polls every now and again, obviously, and I check them. I go onto the website and see how we're doing, see how the community's growing and stuff, which is good. No, I do the reading. Don't get me wrong, I speak to other Marxists and Maoists and MLs and anarchists. Left unity is not on the horizon, unfortunately, but I don't think it ever would be. Oh, that's young to be a monarchist. It's not even that. I wasn't even born when she got coronated. My mum wasn't even born when Liz, who was in a box. She was she became queen in 52 when her dad died, but her coronation was 53. My mum was born the following year, so that was 72 fucking years ago. And obviously Charles got coronated a few years ago, 3 years or something like that. 3 years, 3 years I think he's been king. So I can see why some Zoomers would be monarchists, I guess. I study history. I read a lot of history books and study online things like that. But I look for it for corollary and science and stuff and educate people on what things were actually like fucking centuries ago, even thousands of years ago, because I'm a Hellenist. But those kind of history nerds, if I could actually reach them and say you use it as a tool, you don't become the thing, you don't embody it, you can't. That we're past that stage. So our coronation was 53. So if they were born either in that year or before it, they might remember. Both my grannies remember Queen Elizabeth getting coronated because my granny would have been, Mum's mum would have been 32, and my dad's mum would have been 28 or 27. So they remember the coronation because they were born in the 20s. My granddad remembers it, but I never met the man. This is my mum's dad. He remembers it vividly because he was born in 1915. There was 6 years between my gran and my granddad. He remembers. I remember Mum saying, does he remember it? Yes, he remembers it. Mum can't remember it because she wasn't born. Irish monarchist. That's a weird one. Oh, that's the Glasgow of South Australia. That's quite a. I like that phrasing. That is good. Oh, oh, I would say lucky him, but unlucky him. I wouldn't want to have him there. And I seriously do not want to meet the king. I don't like him whatsoever. Ugh. I will be back momentarily. I need more refreshment. What's actually after demo? Oh, it's one of my. Yeah, I'll leave it paused. I was going to let demo play. I'll not be back before the next video starts. I will be back momentarily. Sorry about that, cameras. I am back now. Okay. Um, oh, yeah, Gemma. One of those patches on your back and lie down. That should help. I could do a video and send it to you. I can put it in my health and vaccine channel on my Discord, and I can show you some massages. Like my fingers aren't feeling too good just now. Useless. These are fucking useless. And I can show you how to do self-massage in the small of your back, so the bit just above your bahuki, just above your buttocks. And I can show you I've used these for decades now because of the main issue is the main pain issue and stiffness is the lower part of my back, the lower part of my spine, so down here. The main structural issues are in the centre of the spine, the middle of the spine, and at the top. I am encouraged not to massage them in case I move it too much and cause issues, major issues that will cause me a hell of a lot more pain, than I'm currently in with them. So I just massage the bottom of my back from, let's see, from just above the backside for about 4 inches up, essentially.
Children account for 23% of amputations, 26% of spinal cord injuries, 33% of traumatic brain injuries, and an astonishing 70% of severe burn cases requiring surgical intervention. There are zero rehabilitation services available for these children in Gaza. Israel has made sure of that. Hospitals lie in ruins or function without medicine, electricity, or clean water. The youngest are being permanently mutilated in a war they never asked for. Gaza's death toll now nears 56,000. Each of those lives represents not a combatant, but overwhelmingly civilians, mothers, fathers, children, elderly, aid workers, and medical personnel. The scale of the destruction, the targeting of life-sustaining infrastructure, and the systematic attacks on journalists paint a clear picture. This is not a war, it is a genocide. And damn those who still deny that. Compounding the misery, Israeli forces and illegal settlers continue to blockade trucks at crossing points. Eyewitness accounts describe entire convoys being turned back or looted. Even within Gaza, Israeli-backed gangs reportedly steal food from distribution sites or from the trucks before they even get there. And even if it does get there, Palestinians don't know if they'll get food there or meet their end. Palestinians are thus squeezed between death by deprivation and death by bullet. This is a war not just on people, but on the very idea of humanity. It is a war where food is a weapon for Israel, water is a threat to Israel, and truth a liability to Israel. The deliberate denial of basic resources is more than a war crime. It's a tactic of erasure. This is a crime being committed in slow motion, in full view of the world, with shocking impunity as our leaders, our governments, as international organizations still sit there and just watch, or worse, support Israel's right to defend itself. Western leaders continue to offer Israel diplomatic and military support, often citing that right to self-defense, but there is no defense for bombing starving civilians. No excuse for shooting children in bread lines, no justification for turning a besieged strip of land into a graveyard for journalists, aid workers, and entire families. The people of Gaza are being forced to choose between starvation and execution. Their stories are censored, their suffering rendered invisible as much as possible. What few facts reach us come at great cost, often smuggled out by the dwindling number of local journalists and humanitarian workers still alive, aside, of course, from the social media footage that we continue to see each day, the work ordinary people across Gaza are doing to keep us informed, horrifying us each and every day. The scale of this atrocity demands outrage, it demands accountability, and it demands action. Every day that passes without decisive intervention is another day children die of thirst, hunger, sniper fire. It's a literal never again moment that is happening again on the world's watch, and still for too many, all they do is watch. The situation is now so dire at those GHF aid sites, now asking for more cash, that the director of UNRWA in recent days described them as human abattoirs. Get all the details as to why he did that in this video recommendation here as your suggested next watch. Please do also hit like, share and subscribe if you haven't done so already, so as to ensure you don't miss out on all new daily content. Got to spreading the word and helping to support the channel at the same time, which is very much appreciated. Holding power to account for ordinary working class people. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next video. Cheers, folks.
So in this segment, we're going to be discussing, kind of the Labour increasing on, national spending on military defence. They want to kick it up to 3% of debt to GDP, and not debt to GDP, percentage of GDP. And so what I've seen from this is before, a lot of these clips will be before the winter fuel allowance change, but I think it kind of pushes towards what Labour's strategy of, really trying to push national defence and trying to act like they're patriotic in order to, say, oh, we're investing in defence to fight off Vladimir Putin, despite that not being a concern of most of the public, because, there's a massive land, gap between us and Putin. There's a lot of countries in the way. So, I don't think that's on the public's main concern. I don't think it makes sense. And I don't think this kind of military Keynesianism works either, because all of these bombs, there's a limit to how much they actually add to the coffers effectively, and there is a cost to storing them as well. So we'll have a listen to some of these clips.
Feels that he is sitting on the side of, we take Russia aggression seriously, we take Putin seriously. If you want Farage, knock yourself out. He's in bed with a Russian dictator. And I suppose part of what he's doing, and we have talked about this whole relationship that Keir Starmer has now with Farage, whether to kind of take him on and kind of pull him apart, verbally, visibly in his speeches, or whether to pretend.
He is basically parroting Mad Frog. He is parroting it, and he's moving to the right and chasing reform voters who will never fucking vote for Labour. Because a few of them, a good percentage of them, actually class as Labour as socialist or Marx, the communist. What planet are these people living on? No, they're not. Not even aptly back with social consensus thing, building up the country after the war. I'll be generous and say that he was Soc Dem, essentially. Kind of left-leaning. But since Blair, 97 onwards, they've all been centrists. And now they've moved even more right. They are not Labour. They are not representing Labour anymore. They are representing employers and business schools and other assorted fuckers. So no, not socialist by any stretch of the imagination. I can't stop fucking parroting and chasing reform voters here or Morgan McSweeney. God, we need rid of him. He needs booted. Oh, but he's only the chief of staff. No, he isn't. He's a fucking puppet master.
He doesn't exist, and to sort of, shut him into a box and hope he goes away. And I think this is somewhere that
Shutting him in a box, he's not going to go away because the media give him too much attention.
That's what's happening.
And he will get more and more attention because of their recent not success in the by-election in Scotland, but they were a very close third. The fact that they have a lot of councillors, even though I think the Green Party have more councillors, this idea he's going to go away is nonsense.
that he's found to say a clear Labour policy is recognising this Russian aggression and doing something about it, preventing it. We're not him.
Because Farage seems to occupy the same space as Donald Trump, which is Vladimir Putin an enemy, or do we quite like him, really? Do we like his boldness? Do we like his, anti-woke policies? Do we like all those things about Vladimir Putin? And Nigel Farage seems to have gone along with a lot of that.
I think it's the one place that's uncomfortable for Farage.
Yeah, really.
He's got.
Obviously Putin not very popular in the UK, especially
What's
because of
relevant,
his
Bob?
invasion of Ukraine, which people obviously see as a war of aggression, and this is a soft spot for Farage. I think Farage can obfuscate it by saying, "Look, we're not focused on that." All of these sanctions on Russia have forced the cost of living up tremendously. What we want is an end to the conflict, and this is how we want to achieve it. Like, that could be his stance, I think.
Got so many tanks on the Labour Party's on the government's lawn in terms of what he says he'll do for ending the cap on the two-child benefit and stuff that Starmer hasn't yet found the courage or maybe the money to go for. But this is the
They have the money to get rid of the two-child cap. We have sovereign currency. We're sovereign currency issuer. We can borrow more money, or we can tax rich bastards. Asset owners, not richly paid, not high earners. Actual people who sit on the wealth, sit on the assets, gold, gems, blah blah blah, businesses. Residential portfolios, people like that tax their fucking wealth. And if they want to fuck off, exit tax. We have the money in this country to do these things. We don't need to do these absolutely draconian benefit changes. But Liz Kendall's been campaigning for that for fucking years. I really, really don't like her. She's going to be punishing English and Welsh people who are the same as me, essentially disabled, and people who are deal with much more serious conditions, disabled people. So don't need to do that. You can tax rich bastards and fund the fucking country. I've been screaming for capital investment for fucking years now, like screaming into the void. You can fucking do this. You can borrow more money to invest in the fucking country. God. I literally do feel like I'm screaming at times for this bloody government. Don't you come after the most disenfranchised, the, the most downtrodden part of the society. You really don't. And lots of us are fucking panicking. I'm not too much, unless they fuck around with the block grant. Oh, we've increased your block grant. It's, the amount you've increased it by is fucking minuscule. It's stupid. Yeah, the right wingers mourn about, oh, it's a two-tier system. But in your favour, the lots of constabularies are fucking racist as hell. So yes, it is a two-tier system, and the lower working classes, people of colour, poor, disabled. That's who they target. Scummy. Fucking scummy. With any luck, we'll get lots of green MSPs next May. I panic for towns, but it's going to be majority of Labour seats in Labour areas next year for the local elections that will be happening in May. So we need people on the ground there to make sure that Manfrog and his merry band of lunatics don't get any more councils. I feel for the 10, they voted for them, obviously, but I feel for the 10 councils they've already got, basically booting the Tories out. Because they would, basically, it was Toryshire that was voting this year. And 10 councils went and voted them in. Ugh. You can tell I don't like Manfrog, hence I hardly use the fucking proper name. Oi, Noid, fuck off. He is Manfrog, there is no Nigel Farage. I have borrowed that Manfrog line from Alistair Campbell when he appeared on The Last Leg, fucking years ago now, that one. Nicotine stained Manfrog, he called him.
The one place where Farage looks deeply sort of unsettled and keeps on sort of rowing back from earlier comments because he.
Now, ironically, Farage of all people is pushing the Labour Party to the left on issues like the winter fuel allowance and on the two-child benefit cap potentially. You got Starmer briefing against his own spin doctor in Morgan McSweeney. And it's kind of crazy.
Maggie's the puppet master.
Ironically, pushing a government to the left is just wild. But this is what he's going to do. He's trying to outflank him on multiple angles here, and it's working for him.
He knows that hasn't landed very well with the British public.
And the other thing that makes it a bit easier for Starmer with his own backbenchers is you've got the Tories and the Liberal Democrats saying, yeah, but we should be doing more. Yeah. No one's saying we should be doing less.
Well, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because just to go back to the Defence Review today, the three authors have said they recommend a 3% of GDP spending. Keir Starmer will tell you that he's managed his manifesto commitment, which was a pledge of 2.5% in the next few years. That's achieved by cutting foreign aid. He won't.
It's a huge blunder because that foreign aid money does help reduce foreign terrorism. You can help stop it at the source in certain places because poverty is a cause of terrorism.
Commit to a date on 3%. He says he'll do that when he can find the money.
Okay.
And it strikes me that, and actually I was talking to another, ER.
Sorry, Linton, I forgot to say hi to you. Rejoice, comrades. Linton is here. Hi. Mwah. Still got lip balm on. Great to see you, by the way. Back to the Big Madge. I encourage everyone to go over to Big Madge's channel. He is awesome. He is a socialist. Oh my god, that is fucking genius. Well said. Oh, that's getting pinned. I'm pinning that one. That's fucking brilliant. Pin. Ah, that's going up to half an hour getting pinned for 30 minutes.
Ambassador who was kind of looking on this kind of spending announcement today with something that I'm only imagining is a sort
Only
of head
the
scratch.
finest cakes
And that
get
is,
pinned,
look,
and that is
we
a
can see
really
that you need
fine
more money
cake.
for defence. We can see you need more money for ending child poverty. We can see you need to end the winter fuel. We can see all these places where money needs to be spent. Just spend more money, right? Just get over yourself. Just either break your fiscal rules or work out how to tax.
Self-imposed, remember, comrades. Self-imposed. We have been telling Rachel this for fucking ever. Well, at least for the last year, we've been telling her they're self-imposed fiscal rules. Yeah, fucking bin them. We have the money to fund these things. And it's absolutely abhorrent. Starving children. Monsters do that. Monsters. They can get rid of the two-child cap. And the winter fuel allowance was like 1 billion or something. Minuscule in government spending. Minuscule. Some of them are, unfortunately. But lots of them moved to the Greens. All the Labour defections you saw in councils leading up to the general election last year, lots of those former councillors have joined the Greens. So whenever their council comes up for, lots of them stayed on as independents and ran as independents in those council seats. Some of them did get voted back in, but the ones that didn't, a lot of them have joined the Greens, so they can run to be councillors again next election, next local elections, which will be 4 years. So, oh my God, that means it'll be happening in the same year as the general election. Ooh, 2029 is going to be fun. But more immediately, next year's going to be fun for me. I'll be covering the Holyrood elections, plus hopefully I can go out canvassing for Scottish Greens in my local area. So, 2026, watch this space, my friends. I wonder if Reform will run anyone for Holyrood. They say they're going to. Fuck it, run. Hopefully they will not get voted in. Oh, don't you worry. The coalition government back in 2010, No Justice voted Lib Dem. She regrets now, she fucking hates them. When I was at uni 21 years ago, I was at SNP, but I was kind of swayed. How old would I have been? 24. 25? 25, the 2005 election. Oh, I've been 26. Yeah. I was SNP then, and wasn't a party member, but I was promoting SNP to students and stuff. And I got campaign leaflets from friends who were party members. And I passed out leaflets around the university. There was always a stack in the Mature Students Association, which I was the convener for. But most of the older people who were part of the Mature Students Association, they were all, a good few of them were my current age. They were in their 40s essentially, and they were all either Labour or Lib Dem. There was hardly any Tory voters. But I managed to capture some of the Labour Party, the people who were going to vote Labour to SNP, which was good.
People who can afford it more, but spend more money.
It kind of reminds me of, they got money for wars, but not money for the poor. And another quote, which is, they got money for wars, and they say, "Hush, why are you preaching?" Is a quote from.
If you vote for independence, you'll get kicked out, and you'll have to join
money for this, but not
the
to
whole
relieve the
process.
two-child cap, which would
Lies.
benefit the country economically to an extent as well. This is
Lots
Rachel
of
Reeves.
lies.
This is very much the attack line Labour are going down,
There's Scottish
which is of
MEPs.
we are
who
tough
voted
on
in
Vladimir
our own
Putin.
MEPs.
I know how
That's how
difficult the last few
EU
years has
voted in
been for
the
many
voting and
members,
stuff, so we would have
from the
been
pandemic
got in.
through the cost of living crisis. Working people paid the price for the Conservatives' failure, for their austerity.
I mean, they're also paying it for your austerity as well. Or working people, you could argue, not so much. It's the people who aren't working that to Labour are the problem.
For their undermining of our public services, and for Liz Truss's fantasy economics. Never let anyone forget what the Conservatives did to our country. Never trust them again.
Rachel, we voted them out. Fair enough. Their policies and how they ran the country, fucking destructive. We know this. We lived under it. You're in government now. Talk about what you want to do, so we can ridicule you and point out where you're going wrong. Right? We voted the Tories out. They are not in government anymore. You do not need to keep on mentioning 22 billion black hole, or how they fucking wrecked the economy and what Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng done. You're the Chancellor now. You can change what you're doing. Really, you can. You're one of the most powerful people in the fucking country. You can change what you're doing and stop bringing up the Tories. They're fucking relevant now. Harping on, oh, they fucking destroyed the country. We know that. We've lived under it. Are you in the horse seat? I can't remember. Give me a minute. That is a good fucking question. Where's my other phone went? Other phone, where are you? Other phone. Let's see where her seat is. Rachel? Reeves? Oh, Christ. She went to LSE. Ah, she's a month older than me. Birthday's in February. She's Leeds West. Ah, she's been Leeds West since 2010. 2017. 2019. So Leeds West. Thanks, Sue. Stop it, Streamlabs. Time out. Leave Linton alone. Leeds with. She really should visit her constituency. She does actually. She is meant to be working for you, making your lives better. I haven't got my YouTube stream up. I am a numpty. Give me a second. There we go. Yeah. I like my stream title. Cursed timeline. There we go. Email her. Oi, Rachel, visit us. She still has to do her constituency surgeries, obviously. But because she's the Chancellor, because she's in the cabinet, they change how much they can do. But when they're on recess, which will be they go on recess on the 22nd of July, most of them move up to or move out and up to their constituencies, and she should be holding surgeries then. So during the recess, so during late July, August, September, blah blah blah. You can maybe go and visit her then, wherever her constituency office is, of course.
Again, with our health service, with our schools, or with British industry.
I mean, if you look at it right now, we're a country where doctors are not working in the medical field because the government refuses to set up the places to pay them. There are massive shortfalls in training because the government refuses to fund it. But do you know what, guys? We got money for more tanks.
Oh,
That's what the
dear
people want.
God.
Tanks for that, Rachel.
I feel for you. Well, at least you didn't win. You've only got up to do
I
with.
know that your members have had to pick up the pieces, and so has this Labour government. But we are making different choices. To put more money in the pockets of working people, we are making Labour choices. And the choice in October to give a pay rise to 3 million workers of up to £1,400 a year by raising the national living wage, a national minimum wage created by Labour, raised by Labour.
£12.21 an hour is shit, Rachel. Helena's managed to convince me. I've been advocating for £20 an hour, but that might have negative externalities. £15 an hour would work. So I'll change. I'll bring it down go from 20 down to £15 an hour. That would be better. Oh dear God. I think I might be able to convince my sister to go. Just last year or the year before, I managed to convince her to go SNP because she was a Labour voter. I suppose I'm fine with SNP. My home city, my hometown of Perth, their MSP is Swinney, so the leader of the party. So, oh God, Swinney, sorry, my dude. We need someone better before next year. So we might see him going in someone a little bit better, as long as it's not fucking Kate Forbes. That would just be fucking horrific, having her as First Minister. Ugh.
Together with
Objectively a good policy. Objectively raising the minimum wage. Obviously there is a limit to it, but you know it is a good thing for the most part.
amending the remit of the Low Pay Commission,
Not high enough,
so that
Brad.
for the first
Sorry.
time, the living wage will take into account the cost of living. The choice of our Employment Rights Bill, the biggest upgrade to workers' rights in a generation, a key part of our plan to make work pay for working people. strengthening sick pay and bringing the outdated, unfair, conflictual industrial relations framework that we inherited from the Conservatives into the 21st century. That is the choice that this government is making. And
I would
another
assume so
choice,
as well, Linton.
one that I know was very close to the heart of million kids, to save working families up to 500 political party, which will tell your members that they have
This is the bit I actually wanted, sorry.
working people's interests at heart. So remember this and tell it to the people that you work with. While Labour is levelling up workers' rights, Nigel Farage and Reform opposed the Employment Rights Bill. While Labour is investing in our National Health Service, Nigel Farage and Reform want to privatise our National Health Service. And while
Yes, they
Labour
do.
is investing in security for our nation and for our allies, Nigel Farage and Reform are not on the side of the heroic people of Ukraine. They're on Russia's side instead. That's Reform, tough on workers, tough on patients, but soft on Putin.
You know, I think with this Putin stuff, I just don't think it's going to land with the broader public. I don't think it's, again, I don't think it's something the public really cares for that much, the conflict, in terms of their top main priorities. I think Reform's their biggest angle they're going to go for is the channel crossings, and that's the one thing Labour can't stop because they won't put a
I talked to them.
a processing
It's,
centre in France.
if it's
You know, when it comes to
feasible,
the
of
winter
course.
fuel allowance,
Always keep
Farage
yourself feasible.
is going to take credit for forcing a U-turn that was inevitable, because the one thing you don't do
Like I say,
is you
there's no
don't
many
piss off.
reform
Do you
boards
know
in
why?
Glasgow.
I'm going to do a
Don't
separate
get me
video
wrong,
on this.
there's people who
But
do
why
reform people
pensioners
in
and
Glasgow,
older
which
people
is
always win?
saying,
Because
so-
one, they vote, they're a massive voting bloc, right? And two, they have nothing better to do than complain. They don't work. A lot of them aren't in work. You know, people that are on pensioners, they don't work. So what that means for the most part is they have all day. So what they do is they switch on the news, right? And it's the news business. So what do? You cover stories that old people care about.
Oh, right.
The winter fuel allowance cut, and you make a feedback loop where these people, they keep phoning in, oh my god, I
Was
can't
it
believe they're
better
cutting
for
my
mental
winter fuel
health
allowance,
getting other people
and the
to
media
vote
keep
reform?
covering it, and it's just a bam, bam, bam cycle. Which keeps going
Excising
until they
them
force
from
politicians to cover it. You know, younger people just aren't invested enough in politics, you know, for my liking, to actually create change. Because if there were people constantly contacting their MP and saying, look, I'm not voting for you because of this policy, and put lots of pressure on them, lots and lots of pressure on them, especially.
Ooh, that reminds me. Give me a minute, comrades. I found a story. Nah, not much. Where am I? Let me put it in my channel. There's that. Visit site. Here we go. You're going to hear my lovely voice for an extended amount of time here. Labour MPs mount major bid to block benefits changes. I want to see a triple-digit number. High double digit, at least that's something. At least 80 Labour MPs, so this is backbenchers. Oh. Well, at least you've excised them now. At least 80 Labour MPs are supporting a fresh effort to block the government's planned changes to the benefit system, the BBC has been told. There we go. The MPs have signed an amendment that would give them an opportunity to vote on a proposal to reject the Welfare Reform Bill in its entirety. Dozens of Labour MPs have expressed concerns about the plans to cut disability and sickness-related benefits to save a paltry $5 billion a year by 2030. So it's not even $5 billion in the 1 year; it's spread out across the next 5 years, which is a small amount of money. Ministers have attempted to soften the impact of the welfare changes, not enough. But many Labour MPs remain discontented with the package of benefits reforms. Good. The Welfare Reform Bill, called the Universal Credit and Personal Independence Payment Bill, will include proposals to make it harder for disabled people with less severe conditions to claim personal independence payment or PIP. Please define less severe if it's a disability. If it is disabling to the person, there's nothing less about it. The amendment, which has been seen by the BBC, notes the need for reform of the social security system before outlining reasons why the bill should be rejected. The reasons it lists for thwarting the bill include the number of people the plans are expected to push into relative poverty, a lack of consultation. They didn't include disability groups, charities and organisations, and an inadequate impact assessment. They weren't allowed to participate in that because Labour are bastards. On the consequences on the jobs market and on people's health. It is known as a reasoned amendment, which is a parliamentary mechanism which allows MPs to record the reasons for objecting to a bill. If a reasoned amendment is selected by Sir Lindsay Hoyle, you better fucking do this, Lindsay, and the majority of MPs vote in favour of it, the bill will not be allowed to continue its passage through Parliament, basically killing it stone dead. While the success of the amendment is not assured, especially if it had to be signed off by Hoyle, the level of support for it among Labour MPs indicates the extent of the potential rebellion facing ministers. For it to be a proper rebellion, for a proper backbench revolt, it needs to be hundreds of them. It needs to be at least half of the backbenchers. So take it 120. It had to be over 150 backbenchers that vote no. No, he isn't. Those are severe disabling things that's happened to your uncle. If he's lost peripheral vision and some of his motor functions, he can't go back into work. See, ghoulish fucking bill this is. Christ, I hope this amendment goes through. A list of Labour MPs who have signed it, which the BBC has been told includes 10 Labour Select Committee chairs. So that's senior backbenchers who are chairs of different committees. I wonder what committee chairs it is. Is expected to be published on Monday. Oh, it's been published today. It is understood that many of the members of the left-wing Socialist Campaign Group of Labour MPs. I thought Morgan McSweeney excised all views. I suppose that's good that there's still some of them in the party. It is understood that many members of the left-wing Socialist Campaign Group of Labour MPs have not yet had the opportunity to sign it. Get it signed, which may mean the number of signatories is beyond 100 in the coming days. oh, I'm happy. Please, please, please. This number of Labour opponents to the government's welfare plans could be enough to inflict defeat on Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer in the Commons. Yay. Make sure your uncle appeals. Anyway, the government has a working majority of 165 in the Commons, meaning that 83 Labour MPs would need to oppose. Oh, I thought it would be over 100, meaning that 83 Labour MPs would need to oppose the bill to force the parliamentary defeat. Oh my god, we're so fucking close. Earlier, Conservative leader Kemi Bad Enoch, Enoch by the way, is a Scottish surname, said she did not want to alert Labour to her plans before the welfare reform bill was voted on. Interesting. A senior Conservative source said the shadow cabinet would be discussing whether to help the government vote through the welfare reforms when they meet on Tuesday morning. That's in 1922, by the way. So that's the Conservative Parliamentary Party. It is thought about half the amendment signatories so far are from the new intake of Labour MPs, so the ones voted for last July, voted in last July. Those elected at the general election last year. The vote on the government's bill is currently due to take place a week. So it's getting voted on in a week's time. I will be watching that very intensely. Oh, I heard something though. Good. Definitely appealing it. Nice one. In a meeting of Labour MPs on Monday evening, rejoice, comrades. Carpi Pax is here. Hi, Carpi. Welcome in. We are reading a BBC news story about benefits changes that they want to social security in your parlance. In a meeting of Labour MPs on Monday evening, Working Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall defended the welfare reforms. Of course you would. You've been campaigning for them for fucking years, you witch. Arguing greater spending on benefits alone was no route to social justice. You give us the bare fucking minimum. We just about scrape by budgeting and making choices of what we can eat and what we can buy for our households. We're one of the most marginalised communities in the country, and you're hell-bent on fucking unaliving us. The path to a fairer society, one where everyone thrives, where people who can work get the support. You're taking away access to work scheme that funds things for people, hearing aids, screen filters of that nature, support ergonomic chairs, keyboards, blah 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 blah, mobility. So that's you apply for a Motability car if you're disabled with certain issues. You get access to funding for it, but you pay it back. It's a loan. We pay for the Motability car. The person pays for it, not the government, which lots of people get wrong. I can't drive. I don't drive. My joint issues and my nerve issues preclude me from driving. I'd be an absolute fucking hazard on the road. Oh, you might. Don't get me. He's doing eugenics, but definitely not through the vaccination. I struggle with anti-vaxxers. But the path to a fairer society, one where everyone thrives, where people who can work get the support they need, and where we protect those who cannot. It doesn't feel like you're doing that, Liz. That is the path we seek to build with our reforms, so that those reforms won't do that. Our plans are rooted in fairness. No, they're not. Those who need support and for taxpayers don't fucking do that. You're basically calling us useless eaters when you say in favour for the taxpayer. Fuck off. They are about ensuring the welfare state survives. Doesn't feel like that. So there's always There's always a safety net for those who need it. Disagree. One of the main coordinators behind the amendment, who do not wish to be named, told the BBC the government's U-turn on cutting winter fuel payments for pensioners demonstrates that they are susceptible to pressure. That's why we need more people, more MPs, more Labour backbenchers to sign this and say they're going to vote it down. They said the decision emboldened many of those who have signed the amendment, saying MPs all voted for winter fuel cuts and have taken so much grief in our constituencies. So colleagues think, why should I take that on again? There you go. Yeah, I'm noticing that. It asked me if I'm going to allow it, so I allow it. I know what you were meaning, what you were talking about. So yeah, these Labour backbenchers, their majorities are small, and the people in their constituencies are usually bigger than the majorities now. So why would they risk their political career by voting these amendments through and losing the disabled people in their constituencies, and they won't get back into Parliament? So self-interest, yay, it works. It is understood that plans for the amendment began when the government offered a partial olive branch by expanding the transition period for anyone losing PIP. Longest transition period, you're still taking the money away from them in the end. The same MP who has been helping to coordinate the amendment said the offering by the government earlier this month was pathetic and angered people even more. I want to know who this MP is. They're actually being decent. Wow, an actually decent MP. Who'd have thunk it? They said direct phone calls from Keir and the Chancellor that were supposed to placate would-be rebels had instead been entrenching people to vote against the bill. Yes! Fucking bring it. They accused Number 10 of thinking MPs can be bullied into voting with them. It is very predictable, but it's still enraging people, which it should, because it is absolutely ghoulish. Oh, I will briefly explain for Carpy Packs here. It's called the whip. So, one line whip, vote your conscience through or there's no whip, you can vote whatever way you want. 2-line whip, you are encouraged to vote with the government. 3-line whip, fucking vote with the government or else. So the 3-line whip is basically their method of doing political violence to the backbenchers. You have to vote with the party on this. You have to vote with the government on this. That's why when Boris was Prime Minister, there was a 3-line whip on a couple of things on connected to Brexit. And there was ones who didn't follow the 3-line whip, and Boris booted them, and he cut his majority down to a fucking nub, like a fucking idiot. So the 3-line whip is basically, you can think of it as like a metaphorical whip. You will vote for this, or you will pay a price, usually getting booted out of the party, and you get made independent. You're not part of the Labour whip anymore. You're not part of the backbenches, the government backbenches. You get booted out of the parliamentary party, essentially. Yeah, it's that electoral college that needs fucking binned first. And better, more progressive parties, obviously. Come on, Mam Danny, for mayor. He will actually be good for New Yorkers. The welfare package as a whole could push an extra 250,000 people, including 50,000 children, into relative poverty, according to the government's impact assessment. Now, if you actually included charities and disability associations and organisations, those numbers would go up, by the way. That's why they were excluded from being part of the impact assessment. Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Liz. That is delightful what you're doing. Seriously, the fucking ghouls. The Department for Work and Pensions says it expects 3.2 million families, a mixture of current and future recipients, to lose out financially, correct, as a result of the total package of measures, with an average loss of £1,720 a year. Ghoulish. This includes 370,000 current PIP recipients. I was on PIP, I'm no longer on PIP. My benefits been moved up to Scotland. I'm on adult disability payment, which is paid for by the Scottish Government. And I get more money. I was on the bare minimum on PIP for successive governments because obviously I have to be punished because I don't work. Ugh. This includes 370,000 current PIP recipients who will no longer qualify and 430,000 future claimants who will get less than they would previously have been entitled to. Ghoulish. But ministers have stressed the figures do not factor in the government's plan to spend £1 billion, fuck all, on helping the long-term sick and disabled, people like me, back into work, or its efforts to reduce poverty. You're not fucking doing that. Oh yeah, I saw that. Fucking ghoulish. That is racist as fuck. That was Cuomo's campaign, wasn't it? What the fuck are you playing at, Cuomo? Ministers hope these efforts will boost employment among benefits recipients, not if you're taking away the aid part of it, which gives people shit to go back into work. Ergonomic chairs, ergonomic keyboards, differently set up keyboards for people with joint and arthritis issues in their hands and wrists, screen filters, hearing aids, especially adapted glasses for the nearsighted or blind, mobility. You are cutting funding for that part, so it's not going to help people into work. Or the people who are already in work who get these things are going to get degraded. They're not going to be able to afford the new things that they need to go back into work. Yeah. Homo, you're scum. If nothing changes, the health and disability benefits bill is forecast to reach $70 billion a year by the end of the decade, a level of spending the government says is unsustainable. Tax wealth suckers. Ugh. The government is planning to put welfare reforms in place by November next year, and no one will lose out on benefits payments until that happens. Hopefully, you'll get fucking voted down. Ah, there you go. Rejoice, I lost my shit. Yeah, well, people in the Democratic Party, the Democrats, obviously the GOP is quite far right now because the Overton window in America's fucking shifted quite radically. Blame Tangerine Menace or previous GOP administrations, Dubba, Dubba Daddy, Reagan. Well, so yeah, he is more like a Republican now than a Democrat. Oh God, that was filling me with rage. Oh, why did that? Oh, no, and back. Keeps on dipping. My Wi-Fi router, or the dongle type thing, it's plugged into the wall right over there, which is about 6 feet away from me. So it really shouldn't be dipping, so that's something Twitch related, methinks. YouTube, if you please. No, this is to become the Democratic candidate for mayor. Hopefully, Mamdani will win that. Then it goes to the mayoral election. I can't remember when it is, so. In fact, give me a minute. I will check when the actual mayoral election is for New York. Where are we? There we are. NYC mayoral election date. Go. 4th of November 2025, so it's at the end of the year. So this is to vote who the Democratic candidate is going to be. Then the vote for Mayor of New York is in November. So a few months yet. Go on, New Yorkers, back Zoran. Let's go back to my watch later, see what else I've got in there. I will pencil that in to my diary so I remember. So he gets voted on next week. Give me a minute. There we go. Everything's unplugged now. That is good. Do not minimize my YouTube stream. Did you like arms with the mic? Oh, yeah. Hopefully enough New Yorkers or Democratic Party members will vote for Mamdani. Oh, God. I am timing you out again, Streamlabs. Shut up. Oh, right, yeah. Puma!
Okay, so we're here with someone who doesn't need much introduction, Paloma Faith, world-renowned singer and artist. Tell us why you're here supporting Palestine today.
I'm here because I've got a heart and I've got children, and I just feel compelled to use my platform to highlight some of the things that are being ignored by our UK government.
Yeah. And what do you think of the UK government's position? What would be your main message to the UK government?
I think that words are futile, actions mean something, and you can't just condemn something and say, oh, it's terrible, and not do your bit to help for peace. And I think throughout history we've seen in our elections that actually most human beings do not want war, they do not want violence, people are afraid of the threat of war, and this is not helping it.
Of course, yeah. And do you feel like artists with large platforms have used their platforms for good? Do you think people could do more? What do you think of that?
I think it's really interesting because throughout history, music particularly has always been like a huge...
Because I don't have my proper setup, there's a box sitting in the living room which is through that wall. It's like 20 feet through that wall in the living room. It is a big box. It is a desk. The desk itself I got from Amazon. Its height was £55, and for an event, I can't remember what it was. I bought it a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago. Yeah, it would be a month ago. I bought it off my last benefit payment, so it was basically 28 days ago. £33. It is a bargain. And once it gets set up down the road, once I'm back in my actual flat, I've got a proper chair. I've got a back support that my mum bought me. There is one that I'm going to sit on. It is on my wish list on Amazon. It is £10. Unfortunately, the one that suits me best isn't on Prime because Amazon being bastards, I guess. So I will order it, and it will raise me up. It will cushion the buttocks. And the one that my mum bought me, it clips and you put it on the back and you clip it in, and it straightens your posture. It's sitting through in the living room just now. That one. My mum bought it, gave it to me for my Christmas, so it's sitting through there. So once that's set up and I've got my desk all set up and everything done, everything all looking good, my posture will improve dramatically. I'm always in pain and my posture's been gubbed since I got diagnosed with my arthritis when I was 11. Even if I do get the correct posture, I will still feel pain. What are you going to do? Paloma Faith being based. Plus, brilliant singer, obviously.
Torchbearer for protest. You look at the 1960s, 70s, 80s, you look throughout time, musicians have written about politics, spoken about politics. You look at Bob Dylan, Marvin Gaye, Nina Simone, all these great people. And now, what I find when I do it is people constantly saying, don't stay away from politics, stick to music. I don't understand what world these people have been living in, but it's actually a duty of people with a voice to use their voice and not just like, facilitate, utilize the platforms. And I'm shocked that not more people have been doing it.
Why do you think people shy away from it?
Well, everyone's worried about losing money, losing work, losing income, offending people because unfortunately the Holocaust has now been weaponized, so people believe that if you don't believe in violence that it makes you an anti-Semitic person, not acknowledging the fact that people of Palestine are Semitic, but the fact is if this was World War II and I was in a time machine, I'd be doing the same thing for the Jewish community as I'm doing now, because never again means never again.
For anyone, yeah. Have you ever been to Palestine?
Pardon?
Have you ever been to Palestine?
I've never been to Palestine.
Do you intend on going?
Not right now.
Yeah.
I'm fine with the rain, it's cooling us down. But the heavens have opened to prove that it's an important cause.
Definitely. What's your main message to people in Palestine right now?
That we hear you, we see you, and we're going to say your names until we're blue in the face, because you're important and each individual person exists. You're all someone's mother, someone's baby, someone's child, someone's best friend. All the children deserve to be born, and I just think it's appalling that they've become numbers and they're all individuals.
Right, so Benjamin Netanyahu always wanted to be remembered as the man who stood up to Iran. He just didn't expect.
I'll show the third video on the Cambridge spies, the most important one, the third one. It should be in my history because I watched it, well, technically yesterday now. Sorry, Demo, I will get back to you. Today, so it'll be yesterday. Yesterday. Here we go. Not so short. Where is it? Where is it? Like, oh God! I forgot I was going to show that. That's the interview. Is that it there? Is that part 3?
Way out of this mess. He's done it for the last 30 years after all. He takes a deep breath and...
Yep, it's this one.
Hello, Prime members. You can listen to British Scandal 1 week early and ad-free on Amazon Music or via the Wondery Plus subscription.
This is basically what happened. I'd done the other 2 videos yesterday, the other 2 podcast episodes yesterday. Well, yeah, yesterday, Sunday into Monday. So this is the final one. This is the 3rd one. This is the important one. This is basically detailing what actually happened to them all. This one is fucking fascinating.
On the Wondery app or Apple Podcasts.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, Alice. You don't look or sound very happy. You okay?
Yeah, I guess. You know when you take on a job and it sounded great and it seemed like a really brilliant opportunity, and then when you get into it, like you're in too deep, you're like trapped, you just realise the truth that it's just sort of like your own living hell.
No, I've never felt like that. What's happening?
No, just I guess like hypothetically it kind of pollutes your private life. It ruins your work. Like you can't stop thinking about it. You can't sleep because it's just so bad. But you thought it was going to be paradise and then it's actually just the pits.
Hang on. Are you saying what I think you're saying?
What do you think I'm saying?
Do you want out? What was that?
There was supposed to be smoke and I was going to disappear.
No, you just made a noise. I can see you.
This is awkward. 10th of January, 9.
No problem, Linton. Yeah, get some rest. I will do a video and I'll post it into my Discord to show people how to massage their back by themselves if they don't have someone to help them do it. God, I can hear him snoring. I need to go and check that at some point over the week. Seriously, his snoring and his breathing when he's sleeping is kind of terrifying to me. It just sounds wrong. Yes, Linton. Self-care is good care. Get rest. For someone your age, you might get 7 hours. 6 should be okay. So anyone under the age of 25 is meant to get like 7 or 8 hours sleep. I don't know anyone that sleeps that long. Not even my niece, and they're 25. I think they're on 6 hours. I believe. He's been checked for that, don't worry. It's just really kind of loud and his breathing just sounds weird because of his asthma. I try to get him to shift his position when he's sleeping, but he usually ends up back in the same position that causes that fucking snoring. Seriously, it's like a machine. It sounds like machinery. I go through and check him every so often at night during the week just to see how bad it sounds. He doesn't believe me when I say he snores, even though I've fucking recorded him. The fact that he can get through these fucking half-roots like walls is mental.
1963, Beirut. Nicholas Elliott hurries past a busy street cafe, glances over his shoulder to check no one's following, then slips under the archway of a tall sandstone building. He's just flown in from London, and it's important no one knows he's here. Elliott quietly enters an apartment, watches a small team of MI6 technicians tape hidden microphones under the sofa and coffee table. They run thin wires under a rug and out to the kitchen.
It's mad to think that now you could surveil someone with an iPhone, more discreetly and more effectively. Back then, how did people not see just like reams and reams of wires and microphones?
Going under their bowl, into their cereal, out along the spoon and up their shirt sleeve. Elliot puts his head around the kitchen door. A stenographer adjusts his headphones and glances up at him. Everything working? We're ready for him, sir. Elliot walks back into the living room, takes off his black-trimmed spectacles and polishes them slowly. His hands shake as he puts them back on. In a few minutes, he'll open the door to his oldest and closest friend.
I'm checking, but I'm not on my bike app. If you can encourage him to go to a sleep clinic, GP appointment, say I think he needs to go to a sleep clinic, and you can get referred to a local sleep clinic, and they can actually check if it is sleep apnea. Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. 10 seconds is a fairly long time to be not breathing. So yeah, please encourage them to get that checked, if you can, of course. Night night, stay based. I will see you later. Should be there. Rejoice, comrades, I am rich. My benefit's been paid. Yeah. Woohoo! Money. Okay. I am rich. At least for a few weeks. Yay! Benefits.
Kim Philby. And finally, make him confess to being a KGB spy. The truth is, he's desperate to know whether their friendship, one that Elliot has cherished for over 20 years, has all been a lie. Was Philby always pretending, using him for information? Elliot feels sick at the thought of being so gullible, so open, so trusting. He pushes down his anger, takes a deep breath. Despite his fury, he's determined to be as professional and courteous as ever. Interview his closest friend with a cold detachment he's used with dozens of spies over the years. All his MI6 training has led to this moment. He checks his watch. It's nearly time. He puts a pad of paper on the coffee table, then adjusts a wooden tray with its 2 china cups and a pot of steaming tea. But as the minutes pass, Elliot begins to second-guess himself. There's hushed, urgent conversation coming from the MI6 team in the other room. Elliot's composure gives way to a rising panic. Where is Philby? If he's caught wind of the whole operation, he'll be long gone. Elliot won't have his chance to hold him accountable. Elliot rushes over to the door, adrenaline flooding through his body. It's time to find out once and for all if this brilliant man, his oldest friend, Kim Philby, really is an enemy of the British state. From Wondery, I'm Alice Levine.
And I'm Matt Ford.
And this is British Scandal. So, Matt, what would you say are good characteristics for a spy to have?
Okay, calm under pressure, intelligence, guile, subtlety, pre-planning, and a love of whiskey.
I think that's a full bingo card for all the character traits that I would say are largely absent from this story. It's completely mad when you think about it. If we start with Philby, he's met with the very real prospect of being unmasked, and what does he do? He smokes his pipe and hopes for the best. Burgess, he parades around Morocco telling everyone he hates the West. And my personal favourite, he draws the wife of the CIA boss with loads of pubes. That's good for keeping a low profile, isn't it? These men are basically anti-spies. They just should not have done as well as they did.
But that is because of the elitist society in which they lived and the assumption, because of their background, that they would just fall on their feet in any given situation. There is this inexplicable bubble around them, despite all their failings, The establishment just protects them.
But, dare I make a prediction, I do think their luck may have run out. It's not looking great where we left them. Burgess got pissed and ended up in Moscow.
I thought my Friday nights were bad.
No, they are. This is episode 3, The Third Man. Support for this podcast comes from Wise, the account that lets you send, spend and receive money internationally.
50 currencies.
You're taking on Rio or convert.
No matter where you're going next.
You can send money, receive payments, and
companies like Xero.
Million people and businesses who are going global with Wise. Learn how the Wise account could work for you by downloading the app or visiting wise.com/UK Scandal. Tuesday the 29th of May, 1951, Washington. Kim Philby hurries down the corridor. He's on his way to see Jeffrey Patterson, the MI5 representative in Washington. He spent an anxious weekend waiting to hear if Donald McLean made it across the Iron Curtain. And now the embassy is buzzing with rumours that McLean's defected. Philby's just hoping it's true. As he walks in, Patterson gestures for him to sit. His face is shiny with sweat. It's official, I'm afraid. London have confirmed he's landed in Moscow. Philby allows a moment of relief before doing his best to look shocked.
Donald McLean? A traitor? How can a man live a double life like that?
He watches Patterson fight back tears.
I'm afraid to say, he's not the only one. Guy Burgess went with him too.
Philby stops, his mouth falling open in horror. A familiar fear takes hold.
He can't. Are you sure?
Oh man, I mean, that is the worst case scenario.
Philby slumps into his chair. He made it clear to Burgess that he had to return to Washington. Otherwise, they would suspect Philby immediately. Patterson shifts uncomfortably in his seat.
I'm so sorry, Kim. I know how close you were.
Well, you say that. You know what? I never liked him.
Close? I mean, we were sometimes geographically close. Were we emotionally close? Were we brothers? No. Were we friends? Barely. Philby looks up. Patterson's face is unreadable. A sense of paranoia creeps in. The intelligence services know that someone helped Burgess and McLean, an inside man. They'll be out for blood, and he's suspect number 1. As soon as the meeting's over, Philby runs to his car, speeds home, and gathers up his spy equipment. He shoves it all in the boot. He needs to get rid of it, fast. He drives out to a wooded area, digs furiously. When the hole's big enough, he dumps all the equipment in, then covers it with a mound of fresh earth. Back at the embassy, he scrubs the dirt from his fingernails, splashes his face, heads back into the office. He sees a telegram on his desk. It's from Dick White, head of counterintelligence at MI5. He's been recalled to London for questioning. He looks at his telephone. If he rings his handler now, he could disappear, tonight. He picks up the receiver. He stops himself. If he goes through with this, he'll never see Eileen and the children again. Besides, if they had any firm evidence against him, they'd have arrested him by now. They certainly wouldn't let him travel freely to London. And if there's one thing he's good at, it's thinking fast under pressure. Surely he can charm his way out of this mess. He's done it for the last 30 years, after all. He takes a deep breath and decides. He's going to front this out, convince White he's innocent, and fight to the bitter end to clear his name. A few days later, London. Dick White strides into his office at MI5's HQ. As head of British counterintelligence, he's been bombarded with calls from the CIA to find out who else was involved in Burgess and McLean's disappearance. Someone must have helped them escape. Someone with a level of clearance high enough to access this kind of intel. The idea of a third man is humiliating. Philby's name has come up repeatedly. He watches Philby now through a two-way mirror. He's smartly dressed with neat, brill-creamed hair. White notices how his hands tremble as he pushes tobacco into his pipe. He'll let Philby stew for a while. 20 minutes later, he walks into the room, gives Philby a casual smile, and asks how well he knew Donald McLean.
I may have met him once or twice at university. I can't remember.
White raises his dark eyebrows.
And what about Guy Burgess? Tell me about your friendship with him.
He watches Philby's jaw shift slightly.
We weren't close.
White lets the silence fill the room.
Okay, let's start at Cambridge, where you and he were both communists, where you personally organised several demonstrations that ended in clashes with the police.
Oh, thank you.
He watches a smile flicker across Philby's face.
Come on, Dick. We've all been young and foolish, made mistakes. You must understand that, as an Oxford man.
White falters, watching Philby grin. He can't let Philby gain the upper hand.
I hardly think now's the time for jokes. Do you, Kim?
No, but an Englishman, Irishman and a Scotsman walk into a bar.
He spends the afternoon making Philby go over the same information again and again. But Philby is impenetrable. After 4 hours, White stops the tape, calls a halt to the interview, watches Philby carefully, but he's as impassive as ever. When he's gone, White nods over at the stenographer.
Get me that transcript as soon as you can.
His long years of experience and a strong gut instinct tell him Philby hasn't said an honest word all afternoon. But a hunch isn't enough. He needs solid proof, and it's clear Philby's going to put up a fight. But he's a patient man. He'll keep calling Philby back to go over it again and again. And if that doesn't work, he'll find a more creative way to flush him out. 4 years later, October 1955, MI6 office, London. Nicholas Elliott slams down his newspaper, stares at the headline.
Dubious third man activities of Mr. Philby.
They're quoting a story.
Rejoice, comrades! The original mod, Fighting Gale, is lurking in the void. Watch out for the tardigrades, Fighting Gale. Hi, darling. Mwah. Enjoy your work.
Story from an American paper, which claims that Kim Philby helped Burgess and McLean escape to the Soviet Union.
Hold on, is this how White has managed to flush Philby out?
This is the aforementioned creative way. Rather than try and get this story into the British press, which poses all kinds of difficulties, as we know, as we've discussed, the establishment closes ranks. Here, he's got free rein if he plants the story in the American press. And hopefully there's a trickle-down effect where it then becomes a topic of conversation in Britain too.
That is so clever. So if you want the gossip on what's happening in Britain, read the papers in America.
Well, we've discussed this before, haven't we, with the coverage of certain stories that there are super injunctions about here, or royal stories where the royals have an arrangement with the UK media, but that doesn't stretch to foreign publications. So there are definitely stories that, even in a time of the internet, we're sort of incubated from.
God bless America.
What is there to dislike? Elliot's furious. The press are putting his friend through hell without a shred of evidence.
That is so unlike the press.
He's determined to find out who's behind.
Oh yes, very much unlike the press that we live under today, Matt. Totally. Doesn't shitpost about anyone, ever. Doesn't publish spurious claims about people. They don't do that. They're responsible media, obviously.
This witch hunt. Elliot runs up a flight of steps, taps on the door, hears his boss, Sir John Sinclair, call him in. Elliot thrusts the paper at Sinclair.
This leak isn't just against Philby, it's putting the whole section under the spotlight. Is Dick White behind this?
Sinclair juts out his chin.
With help from the CIA, I suspect. Leaking to the American press is a smart move. We can't do anything legally.
Elliot lights a cigarette to calm his nerves. He's never been so outraged. MI6 only works because men like him and Philby can trust each other. Without that, the whole damn organisation will fall apart. Dick White's interviews have turned up nothing. Yet poor Philby's lost his job with MI6. Elliot can't understand it. A few minutes later, he's back in his office when his secretary rushes up. Urgent call, sir, from Mrs. Philby. She sounds very upset. Elliot arrives at Philby's house 20 minutes later to find it surrounded by jostling reporters. Eileen cowers behind the door as she lets him in.
Oh, for fuck's sake, bottom feeders, the lot of them. Ugh. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. 30-50%? Do you think that should be enough, Nightingale? Let's check it.
Philby slumped in a corner in his shirt sleeves, an empty bottle of whiskey at his feet. I can't even get the children to school. I don't know what to do. He bundles Eileen and the children into his car, drives them to a safe house, then goes back for Philby, sobers him up and takes...
Thank you, Nightingale. Much appreciated. Oh. Cambridge Spies. I've done the other 2 episodes last night. This is the 3rd one. So this is the big action one where the old... So there was 5 spies who are basically communists. And they became spies for the Soviet Union. They were British. They infiltrated British society, essentially, the upper echelons of it. Huge scandal, obviously. They became spies for the Soviet Union in 33, 34. And we're now into 1955. And this is where they'd all basically get scattered to the winds. Essentially, 2 of them are already in the Soviet Union, Guy Burgess and Donald McLean. So they basically defected, they fucked off.
Takes him to his mother's flat.
I'm going to put an end to this, Kim. I promise.
3 days later, he makes his way to the House of Commons. He's led down a thick carpeted corridor to Foreign Secretary Harold Macmillan's office. The Commons are holding a debate on the third man, and Elliot's persuaded MI6 to let him write Macmillan's speech. He shakes Macmillan's hand, watches him smooth down his moustache.
Our own chap's spying on us. It's a bloody embarrassment. And now the Americans are keeping nuclear secrets from us. It's an unseemly mess. Agreed, sir. That's why I'm here. We all need to end this third man speculation.
He hands Macmillan the speech, watches as his eyes dart over the page.
You're absolutely sure Philby's innocent? If there's any doubt...
Elliot shakes his head.
None, sir. He's completely innocent. You have my word.
This is the highest of high stakes. He's going to let the Foreign Secretary effectively mislead the House and the country just because of his gut.
It seems ludicrous that somebody whose professional drive...
Matt Ford and Alice Levine. Yeah, and Matt Ford's a bit of a lib. And Alice Levine's quite good. So they do the voices for... These are actual people, by the way. Harold Macmillan becomes Prime Minister later on. But yeah, this is a huge scandal. Massive. Basically, people defecting, spying for the Soviet Union, blah, blah, blah. Still feeling the ripples of this to this day, essentially, in certain aspects of civil society. But yeah, massive scandal.
And skill set is to be skeptical of everything they hear and see, is being led purely by this idea of my word is my bond, just by loyalty.
I was going to say, I mean, can you imagine this happening now? The Foreign Secretary getting up to the dispatch box and reading out a load of nonsense. Then I remembered what happened in the last few years and just thought, how little has changed.
An hour later, he sits in the
Well said, Matt.
House of Commons public gallery as Macmillan gets to his feet.
No evidence has been found to show Mr. Philby was responsible for warning Burgess and Maclean. I have no reason to conclude...
I will not bore you all, but after I finished watching, I watched the 3 main episodes again this morning. Yeah, so basically just under an hour. So 2 hours 40 something, 2 hours 50 for the 3 episodes, one after the other. And when I got to this section, I still listened, but I used my laptop and I went to see Hansard. So this is actually in Hansard. Everything that gets said in the House of Commons gets recorded, gets written. Well, it would have been typed, so it's in Hansard. It gets written in, so you can. I will not subject anyone to Hansard. Only political nerds like me go and check that fucking thing. So anything that gets said in the House of Commons gets written down, and you can check Hansard's. You can do keyword searches. Trust me, you do not want to read it. It is dry as fuck. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you will be there. You will fall down a massive fucking rabbit hole looking at what gets said in the House of Commons. I will not subject you all to that. This is not worth it. But if you feel like you want to check it, just go to Hansard's and see if you can parse any relevant information. I do it for certain legislation that affects me and can affect a lot of people within the UK. Most of what gets said in the House of Commons is total BS, or measures that don't affect a great number of people and shit like that. Does Helena check Hansard? I think she might. I don't think Kev's got the patience to go and check Hansard, but I do. So if they ask me, I go and check. I go to Hansard to see what actually got said, and who said it. Ugh. It's a drudgery reading Hansard, it is, but I can tolerate doing it if it's going to expand people's knowledge. My middle sister, she's 18 months younger than me, looks at me like I'm some kind of weirdo when I told her 14 years ago that I check Hansard. Why? To know what they say and who said it, and try to parse out why they said it. Half the time, it is irrelevant what they're saying, mostly. But for key legislation, I check it anyway.
That Mr. Philby has at any time betrayed the interests of this country, or to identify him with the so-called third man, if indeed there was one.
I mean, if you're Philby, what an amazing way to have your name cleared by the Foreign Secretary on the floor of the House of Commons.
How many times do you think you can do that? How many scrapes can you get in where you're like, Harold, me again? I swear, Philby should be trusted.
Yes, for those of you outside Britain, basically every British citizen gets one go at this. The Foreign Secretary will defend you, but only once.
It's where in Monopoly the get out of jail card came from. Elliot?
Now, Matt, don't be disingenuous. Our current Foreign Secretary is David Lammy. I showed a shot of him earlier on if you were here for it. I do not like the man, obviously. Ugh. In fact, I don't like the cabinet at all. Filled with monsters and ghouls and fucking downright idiots. But they're the government, unfortunately. So I have to basically see what they're doing. Seeing how they're going to immiserate us further. Ugh.
Leans back and smiles with relief. With the government's backing, these vicious rumours have to be put to bed. Philby's finally in the clear. Elliot is on his way to the tube when he sees the headlines in the Evening Standard.
Riddle of the third man raises questions for Macmillan.
He snatches it up in horror, stares at the photo of Philby underneath. Persuading the House is one thing, winning over the press is another. Philby won't ever be in the clear if the papers aren't behind him. Elliot can't break MI6 rules and talk to them himself. But Philby's been dropped by the agency, and that means he can. November 1955. Philby's mother's flat, London. Philby sips his whiskey, straightens his tie. In a few seconds, he'll open the door and invite in a dozen journalists from around the world. And he'll convince them he's not the third man. It's the last thing Philby wants to do. He knows the risks of lying prostrate in front of the press, but Elliot has convinced him it's the right thing to do. Today is his last chance to clear his name, once and for all. Gentlemen, do make yourselves at home.
One of them puts the telly on.
The other one takes off his shoes and socks and puts them on the footstool.
Is he having a bath?
Have you just put a Pop-Tart in the toaster? Can you imagine a time without Pop-Tarts?
I don't want to.
55. That's why it was so tough back then. Philby serves cigarettes, beer and sherry from a tray. He cracks a few jokes as they set up newsreel equipment. But as someone switches on a bright spotlight, he feels a trickle of sweat run down the side of his face. The questions start.
Did you all share the same politics at university, Mr. Philby?
His mouth starts to dry as he blinks at the dazzling light. He stutters out an answer when the reporter cuts in.
And is it true you married a communist activist in Austria?
Philby shifts uncomfortably in his seat. He can feel the eyes of the reporters bearing into him, willing him to stumble. He needs to take control of the situation, otherwise he's done for. He takes a breath to compose himself.
My first marriage was quickly over. We all do reckless things in our youth.
He smiles as a ripple of laughter goes round the room. He starts to feel more comfortable. Another reporter lifts his hand in the air, cigarette smoke dancing around his fingers.
Can you say when your communist associations ended, if they did?
Philby leans back, smirking.
I haven't knowingly spoken to a communist since 1934.
Again, the room fills with laughter.
Would you still regard Burgess, who lived with you for a while in Washington, as a friend?
There's a pause. He feels his jaw shift nervously.
I consider his actions deplorable. On the subject of friendship, I'd prefer to say as little as possible because it's very complicated.
He chooses from the sea of hands that shoot up. They ask him his views on Russia, on the Cold War. Finally, a reporter asks outright,
Mr. Philby, are you the third man?
He shakes his head. No, I'm not.
Case closed.
After they leave, he pours himself a stiff drink, loosens his tie, and flops into an armchair. Tomorrow, the whole world will go over every single word he said and look for signs of deception. All he can do is hope they don't find any. The next day, he's hovering anxiously at the door as Eileen returns with the morning papers. He snatches them out of her hands, begins poring over the front pages. Every paper quotes his denial, and that's exactly what he wanted. He picks up the phone. It's Elliot.
Just come out of a meeting with the chief.
Philby holds his breath.
Congratulations, old man. He's agreed to reinstate you. You're back in the fold.
What kind of podcasts are you in the mood for? Award-winning? What about edge-of-your-seat thrillers?
I will be back momentarily, comrades. 1 minute.
Interested in a thought-provoking mystery? Or perhaps something that'll teach you more about the world around us? Either way, Wondery Plus has you covered, with ad-free episodes of your favorite podcasts and #1 hits. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
Hey, I'm Mike Corey, the host of Wonderies Against the Odds. In our next season, 3 friends backcountry skiing in Alaska disturb a hibernating bear, and she attacks. The skiers must wait for help to arrive before one of them succumbs to his injuries. Listen to Against the Odds on Amazon Music or wherever you get your podcasts.
Five years later, August 1960, a beach resort, Beirut. Philby runs out of the sea and flops down next to his new wife, Eleanor. He married her after Eileen's death 3 years ago. He kisses her, then lies back and soaks up the sun. His 5 children are here from England for the summer, and today they're having a beach picnic with the Elliots. But he can't relax. He's got a meeting with his handler tomorrow, and he needs to give him something big. He sits up, watches Eleanor and Elizabeth Elliot disappear into their shared luxury beach hut to prepare lunch. He leans over now and hands Elliot a warm can of beer. Since he arrived in Beirut, he's been on low-level operations. Dick White, now the head of MI6, has seen to that. The trouble is, his handler's getting frustrated. Philby has always been able to give Moscow high-level intel. He doesn't have that rank or status anymore, but Elliot does. So he props himself up on his side and starts chatting about work.
For God's sake, Kim, enjoy the sun. Let's talk about work tomorrow.
Philby grins.
Of course, but how many chaps do we have in the region? How many, say, in Beirut?
In this story, no one has quite mastered the subtle inquisition, have they?
Look, I'm not a double agent, but just how many people do we have there?
If you were to put a very specific, very accurate number on that.
Elliot frowns slightly.
My God, too blatant. I don't know how he survived that long. I really don't. It's the Old Boys Network. A huge factor, obviously. Oh, they went to Eton, they went to these other private schools, they went to Cambridge. That needs dismantling.
Philby realises he's overstepped, so he casually brushes sand off his checked swimming trunks.
You're quite right not to tell me. I probably gave far too much away when I was in charge.
He watches Elliot squirm. For most of his career, he's been Elliot's boss. But now that role is reversed, and he knows deep down Elliot feels uncomfortable about it.
The Soviets have increased their numbers in the Middle East, so we're increasing ours.
Lunch is ready! Philby glances over his shoulder as Eleanor and Elizabeth carry out trays of food. He doesn't mind the interruption. He'll slowly get Elliot drunk, drip-feed him questions, and find out exactly where the British spies are posted. Tomorrow, he'll give it all to his handler, and for the first time since he's been in Beirut, he'll finally prove his worth. A few months later, London. Elliot jumps out of a black cab, tips the driver, and heads into the Mayfair restaurant to meet Dick White. He'd got a call an hour ago to meet him here as a matter of urgency. He takes off his hat and makes his way to the large table in the corner of the room. White slides a photograph across the table.
Major Anatoly Golitsyn, a senior officer in the KGB's Strategic Planning Department, arrived in Helsinki a few months ago. The Americans have picked him clean, but the CIA have allowed him a visit here so we could do the same.
Elliot stares at a picture of a stout man in a KGB uniform. His round face is framed with thick, dark hair.
And you'd like me to interrogate him?
White is silent for a moment. When he speaks, his voice is gentle. He's named Philby as a KGB agent.
Whoa.
Elliot slumps back like he's been punched.
What? He can't have. Where's the proof?
White pushes over a thick manila folder.
Kim Philby, recruited at university along with Burgess and McLean by KGB agent Arnold Deutsch, codename Otto.
Philby's been passing secrets to the KGB for almost 30 years. I'm sorry, Nick, but there's no doubt anymore.
Hello, Harold Macmillan, please.
Elliot thinks for a second he might faint. Philby's been his closest friend for the last 20 years. He's told him everything, every secret, not just work, personal stuff, things he's never confided in anyone ever before. Philby's been like a father figure to him. He's on his feet, though his legs feel like they might give way any moment. Excuse me. He rushes to the gents and throws up. A few minutes later, he makes his way back to the table, sits in shocked silence as a waiter serves him a large steak with mashed potato. He pushes the plate to one side and slowly turns the pages of the file. He tries not to cry as the reality of Philby's duplicity sinks in. I'm flying to Beirut next week. I want a written confession from Philby. Full names, dates, everything. If he gives me that, I'll offer him a deal. Elliot lurches forward.
No, I'll do it. If anyone can get a full confession, it's me.
For a second, he's shocked at his own reaction. Part of him is horrified at the thought of seeing Philby. But he needs to do this. He watches White mop his mouth with his napkin, then slowly nod. Outside, he hugs the file to his chest. His eyes blur with tears. He feels betrayed and utterly humiliated. How could he have been so completely fooled all these years? He needs to get to the bottom of it. He's going to make Philby look him in the eye, finally tell him the truth, and he'll make him pay for his crimes. A few weeks later, January 1963, Embassy Flat, Beirut. Elliot sits in the living room and waits. He's determined not to show any emotion, but fear and anger are already rising in his throat. His heart thuds as he opens the door. Philby grins at him, open-armed.
Nick, what a surprise! I thought you were in London.
Elliot silently gestures Philby into the room.
Is everything okay?
Elliot wordlessly hands him a cup of tea, then looks into Philby's puzzled eyes.
Your past has caught up with you. We know you're a spy, Kim.
He watches Philby calmly put down his cup.
Not this nonsense again. Has Dick White put you up to this? The man is obsessed.
Elliot reaches into his bag, slams down the file, watches Philby's eyes widen as he sees the name Golitsyn.
I've put the volume up for this bit, and I will not talk much until this bit's over, because it's important.
It's all there. Proof you've been working for the KGB since the early 30s. We know you helped Burgess and McLean escape.
We know everything about you, Kim. He looks at Philby, but his face is unreadable. It suddenly hits him that he never knew this man at all. He starts to tremble. He doesn't want Philby to notice, so he takes his Mont Blanc pen from his pocket and rolls it in his palms.
I'm prepared to offer you full immunity, but I want the name of every KGB agent working in Britain and every secret you handed to Moscow. Come on, Nick. You don't really believe I'm guilty of this, do you?
Elliot slams the pen on the table.
Stop it! Just tell the bloody truth! You betrayed your country, your class, our friendship. You betrayed me! Every night out, every party, every weekend at cricket, you were using me. And for what? To prop up Stalin and his murdering thugs.
He watches Philby's face darken.
I am a patriot, through and through. Just not to your bloody flag. I fought for a better society, and I'm proud of it.
Elliot can't believe what he's hearing. How can someone so clever not see reality?
Don't be so bloody naive, Kim. Your own handlers died in Stalin's death camps. It's not a workers' paradise. It's a dictatorship. And you've helped build it.
Elliot falls silent for a few moments, then says quietly,
Criticisms of the Stalinist government valid. They are valid. Fun side note, Lenin didn't want Stalin in charge. He wanted Trotsky to take over. And that would have been interesting to say the least. I advocated for it when I was a teenager, when I was 18, 19 and 20. I was in a trot for my sins, obviously. But I got rescued by my best friend and a classic Marxist now. But yeah, he wanted Trotsky in charge instead of Stalin. I've had fun thought experiments in the past to think what that government would have been like. Not entirely sure it would have been good. Some people say that we got the better half, that a Trotsky-led Soviet Union would have been chaos out with, not within. But we'll never find out. We've never found out, obviously, because we basically escaped to go out. Assassinated with an ice pick in Mexico. Interesting. It'd be fun to theorise again. I haven't done it for years. Thought these thought experiments I used to do to think what it would have been like with Trotsky in charge instead of Lenin, instead of Stalin. Would have been interesting, to say the least.
My God, how I despise you.
He slowly puts his pen in his pocket, scans Philby's face for any sign of guilt or shame, but he's defiant. It lights a fire inside Elliot. Here's the deal. Tell us everything, we'll give you full immunity. Or we'll make your life intolerable. We'll take your passport. You won't even be able to open a bank account. Your children won't be able to stay at their expensive schools. Don't be a bloody fool, Kim. Give us what we want, for both our sakes. He watches Philby smile sadly. Doesn't look like I have much choice, does it? Elliot feels a lump in his throat. He looks away.
I'll pick you up tomorrow. 4 o'clock sharp.
Philby stands, walks to the door, but stops in the doorway. He turns and looks at Elliot.
Despite what you think of me, I valued our friendship. Very much.
Elliot slumps back, listens to the faint whir of the tapes in the next room. He's got what he came for. In a few hours, the transcripts will be on their way to London. But now all he can do is lower his head and silently weep. Kim Philby, his oldest friend, his closest confidant, is a liar and one of the biggest traitors the British state has ever seen. The following morning, Beirut. Philby stands on the balcony of his 5th-storey flat and gazes out at the heavy rain. He hasn't slept all night. He's facing the biggest decision of his life, and he's completely torn. He looks down at the yellow book in his hands. If he holds it in front of his chest now, it's a signal to his handler down below that he wants to flee. He looks across at his sleeping wife. The thought of leaving her is killing him. He closes his eyes, feels the rain on his skin. Elliot's disgusted face flashes in front of him. He looks down at the yellow book, holds it tight to his chest, watches his handler nod, then hurry off in the rain. Half an hour later, he grabs his small rucksack and makes his way to the street below. He rushes down an alley and meets his handler.
Your papers aren't ready. We need more time.
Philby glances behind him, desperation palpable in his voice.
I haven't got any bloody time. If I'm not with Elliot at 4, they'll know something's up. You need to get me out.
2 hours later, Philby watches his handler give the captain of a cargo ship a wad of notes. He can't understand what's being said, or even exactly where the ship is going. Before he gets a chance to ask his handler, he's disappeared.
The captain beckons for him to follow him into the bowels of the ship. Philby follows the captain to a tiny cabin with a small bunk and a steel sink. The smell of sweat and diesel makes his stomach turn. He sits on the dirty bunk, alone. His old life is over. His life of parties, of dinners with prime ministers and presidents, of his London club. He blinks back tears. He thinks about his family, asleep and warm in their beds. He knows now he will never see them again. He looks at the wall of the ship, bearing down on him, and thinks about his likely destination, the Soviet Union in the dead of winter. He thinks about communism, the ideal he sacrificed his life for, that all men should be equal, that a better world is possible. He lies down on his bunk, looks up at the damp ceiling above him, and wonders if in the end, all the years of sacrifice, of betrayal, of lying to the people he loves, were ever actually worth it. A few hours later, Beirut. Elliot sits in the back of a taxi outside Philby's apartment block, squinting up into the sun. He's here to pick up his old friend, take him to the embassy, and get him to sign his confession. But Philby hasn't come down, and now he's 15 minutes late.
Unforgivable. If you're going to sign your own confession, at least be punctual.
Can you imagine if this was me? They're like, she's done a runner. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just 23 minutes late. Sorry. I can see why that would cause alarm, but I just couldn't decide what to wear.
Traffic bad, was it?
Don't start. Elliot stares at the door, dabbing his sweaty forehead with a handkerchief. He feels his stomach lurch. Philby is never late. A terrible thought hits him, that Philby's fled. But that wouldn't make any sense. He wouldn't abandon his wife and children, surely. Elliot hands the driver a crumpled lira note, tells him to wait, then rushes out. He runs up to Philby's flat, bangs on the door. When Eleanor answers, he pushes his way in.
Where is he?
Eleanor looks shocked.
He's with